football weekend here in Atlanta. We had the Atlanta Falcons playing on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 50,000 Yinzers from Pennsylvania out of the 71,000 seat Georgia Dome. They were probably 50,000 feet up if they were in the third deck. Watched Pittsburgh defeat the Falcons. And of course, on Saturday, we had the Southeastern Conference Championship game. Georgia defeating LSU by a ton. Welcome to ATL Prime Sports. I'm Todd Corder. He's Wayne Ridenhour. And our special co-host today is David Walker from the Rebel Walk. And David, you're filling in for JJ, who is ill, and his wife is about to have a child. So they have a lot going on in the house. And before you came on the show, you had a lot going on. Thanks for coming on.
Always glad to be here. Thank you, Todd. And want to give my best to JJ and his wife, and hope everything gets better quickly. As you were saying, it's a big week. And we had a big weekend this last weekend. I know JJ would love to be here with us, visit with us about that. But what a weekend, man. What a weekend.
Only if you knew he's been waving his Georgia pom-poms since Sunday. Cheerleading outfit, I mean, you name it. And Wayne, we had a chance to meet in person last Thursday at the Battery in Atlanta when you came into the ATL for a few days. My wife and your wife and me and you, we all had dinner at the Battery. JJ couldn't make it, but it was a pleasure to see you in person for the first time.
Yeah. Well, it was a great place to eat, and I actually finished that steak the next morning for breakfast because it was a big old steak, and I couldn't finish it.
We had dinner at the Yard House, and outside the Yard House was a Christmas tree. We all had our picture stuff, and I put the picture of me and my wife on the Facebook account, and I called it, I said, yeah, it's called my Hallmark movie making moment. We had a rated G kiss at the end.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it, man. Only way to do it. Good job. Yeah, I saw that. Nice.
So you can catch all of us at ATL Prime Sports, myself at Corder Todd, JJ Get You One, Wayne at RWY Jr., David Walker at David Walker QB, and of course at the Rebel Walk. You can catch him there also. He does a great job for the Rebel Walk. I actually met you, David, last year at the Louisville Ole Miss game, and you were working while we were sitting watching the game. So you do great work for them. And let's get to work. But before we do that, once again, you catch the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with Apple and Spotify. Let's get to our college football roundtable here, and our playoff matchups are set. Ohio State will play Georgia. TCU will play Michigan. And, of course, there's a joke that I saw. A picture was sent to me. The Utah head coach was carrying the Ohio State head coach from drowning in the water and saved his life along the Buckeyes. That was a big joke that was running around social media this week. But, David, let's talk about these matchups. Let's do Ohio State and Georgia first. This is a monster matchup.
Yeah, and you look at Ohio State getting in over Southern Cal, and actually what happened here is you traded one Heisman candidate who's going to be in New York for another Heisman candidate who's going to be in New York. You got C.J. Stroud now coming in, and with Ohio State, and as you said, Todd, they were outside looking in, and they had to have something. They had to have an upset in one of those probably two conference championships. More than likely, the Pac-12 was going to be the only way they were going to get in, and we talked about it last week. I was a little concerned about Southern Cal against Utah, and Utah did knock them off and looked pretty good doing it. And then the game the next day was just unbelievable with TCU and Kansas State. It went into overtime, and just an incredible day of football. But now that you look at the 1 and 4 pairings, And, you know, you never can count out Ohio State. I mean, they're just strong. When they're hot, they're hot. C.J. Stroud's a great quarterback. Um, he was a Heisman Trophy leader in the odds for several weeks this year. So, and then, of course, Caleb Williams come on, and I guess Caleb is now odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. But he's an exceptional quarterback, normally with exceptional receivers. And, you know, they went to Michigan and got beat, but I'm sure they're going to try to cure some things that happened to them at Michigan, getting ready for Georgia. Georgia's about the same, in my opinion, same style as Michigan. You know, they're going to run the ball right at you. They got a heck of a defense. And so it's going to be playing like a mirror image of the Michigan Wolverines for Ohio State. Both games are right at a touchdown spread on each, and I think we're you know, we have a couple of really good semifinal games in store for us when they get here a month from now.
Well, there's no doubt. I actually think, David, these are going to be the two closest playoff games we ever had in a semifinal round. I can see Ohio State staying within a touchdown, and I can see TCU staying within a touchdown of Michigan. I do see Michigan and Georgia moving on, but you never know. It comes down to turnovers when the teams are this evenly matched. I think Michigan has closed the gap from a year ago when they got romper stomped against Georgia. We'll see if we ever get to that. But Wayne, we found out that TCU, even though they lost, they didn't move. And David's right. Ohio State hopes were pinned on USC getting romper stomped at in the Pac-12 championship game against Utah. And Utah's O-line and D-line, when it was scored was 17-3, Wayne, they were a man among boys. They got physical on each side of the ball, Wayne, and that's what put Ohio State in the playoff. And your thoughts on these thoughts on the Ohio State-Georgia game?
Well, you know, I'm of course going to pull for Georgia on this, and I've got family who are going to pull for Ohio.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that, but really, being a Memphis fan, my focus is now, as far as football goes, on the Serve Pro Bowl that Memphis is going to be playing against Utah State Aggies, and I'm sure David Walker's probably thinking about the Texas Tech Red Raiders because that's who they have to play in their bowl game coming up.
You got to admit, Wayne can change the subject because he can do whatever.
He skipped right over that one, didn't he?
He did. He just produces the podcast. He doesn't give a rat's bit what he says on air. And you know what? I honestly don't care.
There are only two bowl games worth watching. Is that right, Wayne? There's only two.
That's it. You know, I'm only probably gonna watch the Memphis one because that college football playoff, I'm not really invested in any of those teams. And plus, as you well know, David, it's basketball season, and you know, we can talk about the Ole Miss Memphis game, you know, as the show progresses, but we'll still focus on the college football playoffs because that's what Todd wants to talk about.
Well, if we're talking about the bowl games, we got to talk about A&M again, not wanting to be in one. You remember last year, of course, they passed on any bowl game bid, and apparently they did so this year just by design.
They don't bowl game. Finished 5-7, and nothing thrilled me more to watch Jimbo Fisher and his team, overrated team, get pummeled. And I mean,
six in a row. I mean, that hasn't happened at A&M since 1972, and they haven't been beaten by a sub-Power 5 team at Kyle Field since Arkansas State. That's the only time this century that a G5 or lower has come in and beaten an A&M football team until Appalachian State. So it's happened twice, and one of those two times was this year. Crazy.
Well, speaking of Appalachian State, Michigan's coming up here against TCU. We remember that years ago.
Yes, we do.
And speaking of Jimbo Fisher's record, his buyout should only be about, 60, 70 million if he has another bad season. Better start getting the alumni to get out some coffers and because his record is worse than the previous coaches that were there at A&M. But Let's go to TCU in Michigan, since that was nice segue with App State there. Michigan comes in undefeated. As you know, they pretty much took care of business against Purdue as expected. TCU, they lost against Kansas State, a top 10 team. They do have a Heisman finalist in Max Duggan. How do you see that game going, David? I know you like Georgia to beat Ohio State. How do you see Michigan and TCU?
Yeah, first of all, I'm very impressed with Max Duggan, who is another one of the top 4 quarterbacks who is going to New York for the Heisman. He was second team when the season started, and the guy's just a champion. He's a winner. I mean, you were looking at every game they had, Power 5 game this year anyway, was just nip and tuck and, down to the wire, and just they just continuously come through. I mean, cardiac kids, that's who TCU is. And it was just an amazing game that they had against Kansas State. Down to Kansas State, 28-20. They come back, score a touchdown, go for 2, tie it up, 28-28. And it's just as much drama. Once they did that, you figured, well, it's just a TCU magic going to work here. And, they came up inches short in overtime and allowed Kansas State to kick the winning field goal. Terrific game, though, and terrific program. Sonny Dykes is being named National Coach of the Year, by several publications already. And it's just, and with Duggan, going to the Heisman get together, it's just an incredible year for TCU. And having played TCU, back in the day, when we beat TCU in 1973, it was the first time A&M had won against TCU in 5 years. And A&M has now beaten TCU 24 straight. So wherever that 25th game is going to be a bowl game, going to be somewhere. But it was my first start in 1973 as a 17-year-old at TCU when my football career really started at A&M. So saw a place in my heart for the Horned Frogs. And, I'm pulling for them on the side. I really hope that they can pull the upset. I know it's going to be very difficult, but really good program. Gary Patterson had a tremendous program, and now Sonny Dykes has stepped in there with a tremendous program. And when you look at University of Texas and you look at Texas A&M and Baylor, and then you see a TCU come up and be the best team in the state and have the best coach in the state, even though he's not as high paid as some of the other coaches in the state. I mean, it's a real tribute to what they've accomplished there. It's incredible. So I'm a big TCU fan this week. I know they're going to keep it close, and if they keep it close and it comes down to the wire, you better watch TCU because they'll pull it off.
They could, David. One thing that concerns me, though, for TCU is they're not facing they have not faced an offensive line. Their defense has not faced an offensive line like they're going to face in Michigan. This is a offensive line that you can say Georgia's 1, Michigan 2, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. And they're 57th ranked on defense. And I'm telling you, I don't like that matchup for TCU at all. If Michigan's able to line up and run the football, then and play action pass and roll McCarthy out whenever they want, TCU could really be in for a long day defensively. Of course, if you flip the script for TCU, I do expect it to still be a close game, but man, I don't know if TCU's played this good of a defensive team that they're going to play in Michigan, not only on the defensive line getting after the quarterback, but that Michigan secondary with Sunstrill, a converted wide receiver into a DB. Man, I don't like TCU's chances, but they've had a lot of magic this year. They're 5-1 against top teams in the country. So they've always found a way to hang in there. And then you mentioned Max Duggan going to New York City, the heart and guts and soul of the team offensively. I just think they're going to fall short.
And they TCU does like to go with the deep ball. I mean, they will throw those go routes just out, about 8 carries, and they will hit them. They have really good receivers. But as you say, Michigan is, so much improved over last year, in my opinion. And I was really impressed with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. He had a throw for a touchdown in that football game. It was just on a line about 40 yards. It was just an amazing throw. So he's got such a lot of talent. And so he's the only quarterback in the Final Four who's not going to New York for the Heisman show. But
That
but
is
I
amazing.
now he's going to have his chance. I think he's good enough to have an opportunity in the next year or so. But boy, I tell you, we have 4 quarterbacks I'm really excited to watch, and 2 football games that are going to be a lot of fun.
Well, David, speaking of quarterbacks, we'll go back to Georgia and Ohio State. And to me, the story of Georgia's quarterback, Stetson Bennett, is an incredible one, going from walk-on to JC, back to, being a backup, then a starter, then gets injured, goes to a startup, then becomes a then becomes a starter, backup, then a starter. Then when, they lose the SEC title game to Bama, then they win the national championship. Then he comes back this year. He's a starter again. They run the table. They win an SEC championship. Now they're in the Final Four. By the way, he's a Heisman candidate. And you know what, David? I'm going to come out. JJ will probably try to kiss me on the cheek, which I hope he never does. But this is my guy that if he won the Heisman, I have zero problem with this. When you look at this kid playing against winning teams, he's played against 6 winning teams this year. He has the best QBR of 176.40. He has 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions with a 73% completion rate. I know everybody's going to tell me nobody with 20 touchdowns passing has only ever won the Heisman. But you know what? The offensive line, if you got that kind of offensive line, this is the result you're going to get. And Michigan has the same thing with McCarthy. He threw 20 touchdown passes because his offensive line, they got a great running game, and they're just mauling people's defensive lines. And I just think that this Stetson Bennett, if he went from walk-on, they didn't even want him there. Kirby thought so many ways to get rid of him, and now he can win the Heisman. This is my guy. I think he's going to show up against Ohio State and win. I do like C.J. Stroud, but you know what? C.J. Stroud, when you watch the film against Michigan, he had lanes to run the football, run 8 or 10 yards, and take what the defense gave him. Instead, he throw an incomplete pass. He has got to do that against Georgia, or they're going to tee off, and they won't respect him getting out of the pocket and running the football.
Agreed. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Stetson Bennett. 5'11", not that big, about Drew Brees size, and has done nothing but win there. And he's been impressive in winning. That win last year against Alabama in the final, after they've been beaten by the SEC in the SEC championship, to come back and win 2 weeks later for the national championship and play like he did. I mean, my gosh. There was a little hesitation after the season last year, I recall, about him coming back to Georgia because he didn't know if he could trust the coaches. Do you remember him saying something like that?
I think he
And so
coming back thinking maybe they might start somebody else for a second there.
Maybe a transfer or somebody coming in. But that's the world we live in right now, right? I mean, you don't know from one year to the next who's going to be coming in to compete for your job. And even though he'd won a national championship, he knows how precarious a situation that every quarterback is in right now, because if you don't perform, you're gone. Somebody else is coming in, and we'll see you later, pal. I mean, it's
A.T. Daniels, David, 4 years, 4 different schools. One of them was Georgia. We got to move on because of time. Let's go to our most intriguing bowl game. Wayne, don't tell me Memphis. Give me another bowl game besides that, please.
That's the only one I'm thinking about, man. Come on. The Surf Pro Bowl down there in Dallas, Texas. I'm looking forward to it.
What's yours, David?
Well, since it's about an hour from the house, I got to say that it's probably Texas Tech and Ole Miss. That'll be mine on the 28th. I'll be looking forward to it.
I thought JJ was a homer. Y'all are right in his ballpark, man.
Well, we were fortunate. We got to go see Texas Tech and Ole Miss play in NRG Stadium several years ago to open the season. So it's going to be a replay for us. So, it couldn't have worked out any better. So we're pretty pleased about that. But Alabama's head coach was talking about that would be Nick Saban talking about Kansas State and a team getting beat by Kansas State who's going to be in the Final Four.
Yep.
And that's just not right. And he was talking about, if you ask Vegas who the best four teams were, who would be favored against who, Alabama would be favored against everybody except for Georgia.
And look
basically what he was saying.
Look who they play, David.
They get to play Kansas State.
Kansas State. You took the game right out of my mouth. Yeah. That was my number one. I mean, it was it. And I'm sitting there going, oh, he just led me right down the river. And watching Nick Saban, David, sit there and talk about that, you could see he was so uncomfortable doing it. And all coaches do it. They always beg and plead and politic for their team to get in the playoff. And to watch him do it, it kind of just made me laugh. It really did, because the roles were reversed. And he looked so uncomfortable doing it. And it was a made-for-TV moment. And now he's given Kansas State fire and bulletin board material. And I guarantee you they're going to get their best shot from Kansas State. And if they're not interested, Bama will get beat.
Yeah, and they're not very big favorites either. I mean, if you look at the favorites, that Vegas put out, Alabama's only a 4.5-point favorite or something like that. So, he's not the big double-digit favorite as he is against most teams, 90% of the teams. I mean, this is going to be a football game too. Kansas State's going to show up, and that's going to be very interesting. Going to enjoy that one.
I am, and I'm going to enjoy it thoroughly if Kansas State wins, just because of the talk. I know he really didn't mean any harm to Kansas State, but I'm sorry. You just gave you did it right on national TV. You kind of disrespected them. And
it's funny how they line him up after he makes that statement, right? I mean, he's on Fox.
Conspiracy theory, baby.
That's not even an SEC network, right? Fox, that's Big 12, Pac-12 country. And they have him on at halftime of their championship game, and it was just perfect.
Don't you love
the bows start getting set up? All of a sudden, he ends up with Kansas State. I mean,
don't you love how all these networks politic for all the teams they cover? It's right. Every year. And I just thought how ironic that they get Kansas State. Two other great bowl games, Penn State and Utah, the way Utah pummeled USC, and Caleb Williams, who put them derogatory remarks on his fingers the last 2 weeks about the last two opponents. That, to me, crosses him off my list for any Heisman consideration. I wouldn't bring him to New York at all if he did that. I think it was morally and ethically wrong. You don't, and then when he was getting pounded by Utah, he looked at his offensive line and had an attitude. And to me, it showed him up where, if you're in the huddle, come on, guys, let's go. He did, however, gut it out with his knee rolling out. And he played really hard. But to me, attitude reflect leadership, captain, from a movie we all know. Remember the Titans?
The Titans.
Yes. To me, that would definitely cross him off my Heisman list. Another great game. Like I said, Penn State playing Utah. Penn State's only lost to Michigan and Ohio State. And the last one, Clemson and Tennessee. Clemson has finally found their quarterback in Cade, it looks like. And Tennessee won't have their quarterback, Hendon Hooker, who didn't get invited to the Heisman. It's former quarterback Joe Milton quarterbacking for Tennessee. I just find how ironic these matchups are.
Yeah, and I was thinking too about Clemson. I mean, I love that quarterback. I don't know why he's just now getting the job. That seems like a swing and a miss for Clemson there, because he probably should have been starting since game 2 or 3. The guy's great. I mean, he comes from Westlake High School here in Texas. He won 3 state championships at the big boy level while he was at Westlake High School. Westlake is Drew Brees' old high school. They have some quarterbacks come through there every now and then. But it's been a while since I've seen a quarterback that I think is as poised and as talented as that kid from Clemson is right now. That's going to be a good one. The other one I'm looking forward to, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, is USC and Tulane. Now, Tulane is a 11-2 team, outstanding. They've had a great season, coming off a 2-win season last year.
Yeah.
And they go 11-2 this year. I mean, that's a good football team. And
Yeah, it's not.
I wouldn't
I'm
be
not.
surprised if Southern Cal loses 2 in a row right there.
What'd you say?
I'm not used to seeing Tulane ranked so high either. They're in our conference, and usually they're, in the lower half of the conference. So they've really turned some kind of program around down there in New Orleans.
If
It's going to
USC
be in the Cotton Bowl, and it's
Yeah.
it's a big time bowl, and it's the first time I think they were saying since 1940 that they've been in a big time bowl like this.
and
So,
Tulane want to get a lot of support from there in the Cotton Bowl, and maybe they
oh
upset
yeah,
USC. That would be awesome to see. 2 real things. We're just running a little late. The playoffs are at 12 are set for 2024. I'm saying to myself, it's about time. It's about time we get the playoffs for 2024. My thought is real quick. Once again, it's about time. And you know what? I can't believe with all the money involved in the game, this wasn't done sooner. David, your thoughts real quick on that.
yeah, I agree, and I wish it were next year, and I wish it would have been this year, because there are so many good teams that are being left out of the process, and that would be the 3 conference champions. The ACC, the Pac-12, and Big 12. They didn't get in, and I think that's a bit of a travesty. So I'm looking forward to the change in 24, no doubt.
Prime, hey, we are on ATL Prime Sports. We got to talk about prime time. Prime time. Deion Sanders going to Colorado. Guess what? They had the biggest one-day merchandise sales ever at Colorado when he was named head coach, and 2,000 season ticket applications. I find this fascinating, Wayne. I find this fascinating. I can't wait till Deion Sanders gets to Colorado. I got to hear your thoughts, Wayne, and then David.
Well, get ready to see a lot more Colorado football on TV.
Well, you can, yeah. It'd be easier to find. In prime time, you used to play for the Falcons. That lid on your head that I got when you were in Atlanta. That's right, David. Your thoughts on prime time coming?
I'm happy for Deion. I mean, it's he made a big step just to go to Jackson State.
Right.
Came out of whatever he was doing, and wow, what a job he did at Jackson State. He's a guy that's a magnet for great players, and he got the #1 recruit in the country his first year there. So it's just perfect timing for him because of NIL and because of the transfer portal. Perfect timing. There's no telling what Colorado's going to do next year. Unbelievable.
Speaking of the transfer portal, there's like 1,100 kids in the transfer portal. Deion Sanders said in his opening press conference, I'm bringing my quarterback, which is my kid.
His son.
So-and-so, and I'm bringing so-and-so. Oh, for the rest of you guys, if you're not ready to play, you need to transfer out because I'm bringing guys that are transferring in. And Deion did a lot for Jackson State, the SWAC, and HBCU football in general because I broadcast games on ESPN Plus in the SIEC conference. I don't know if it really went all the way down that far, but at least it gave HBCU the notoriety that it deserves and the attention that it deserves. And I'm thrilled that, he was there for a couple of years at Jackson State. He's going to name his own successor. So hopefully this good stuff will continue. Let's go on to our pick 6. David, you can play. We do it every week. We do our pick 6, and JJ gave me his pick 6, so I'll tell him on the air. We're doing just one college game. I hate it that we're only doing one college game because, the rest are pro, but that's kind of how it worked out since there's only one college game this week. We have college basketball. Maybe we'll do a pick 6 for college basketball for Wayne during the college basketball season. Now he's smiling. So,
I do pay attention to the NFL. Yeah.
and I know you do. You would be the opposite of Wayne's head, so the Saints, and yeah, I know. So we'll go ahead and go to our first game. It is Navy and Army. It's a pick 'em. It's even. So who do y'all got? Wayne, who do you got?
I'm going with Navy because my dad is retired Navy, and this is a huge game. He lives up there in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is just south of the Kentucky border from Fort Campbell. And there's a lot of Army guys up there, but he still has these Navy Ram out there in the front of his yard. So I'm going to have to say go Navy.
David, who do you got?
Okay, here's the game that I get to watch that is different from every game that we have all season. And as you may recall, I played in the wishbone. We ran the triple option, the straight triple option of Emory Billard's, and that's what Army and Navy do a portion of. So it's kind of neat to see somebody who's a little bit different than every other football team out there who just runs the shotgun one back. Okay, this is different here. The flex bones, and of course Navy will get in the shotgun too. Army can throw the ball a little bit whenever they need to, as Navy can. So, but I'm with Army. I'm going with Army on this one. And I love this game. This is just a great game, great weekend. I'm glad it's here.
The game will be in Philadelphia. It'll be on Saturday. And I better pick Army because my son's in the Army, or I'll get my butt kicked. And no, I've got to take Army. And if Army wins, they're bowl. Or is it? Who is bowl eligible? I think it's Army. If Army wins, they're bowl eligible. So I'm going to go with Army. They're going to win because they're going to be bowl eligible. That's not much of a reason. Okay, we got the Jets 7-5.
Wait a second.
Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
What's JJ's pick on that one?
Oh, I thought I told you Navy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. He is officially picking Navy. Of course he is. So we're gonna go to the Jets at Buffalo, 7-5. The Jets and the Bills 9-3. Buffalo 9.5. Wayne, you're first.
I'm taking the Bills to cover on this one. Because I don't know, I just like the Bills better than the Jets, even though I'm a big Connie fan, and the Jets really turned around with Robert Saleh.
Well, we've had Connie Carberg on the show for the Jets, and she'll be disappointed in you, but that's okay. JJ had the Bills to cover. Who do you have, Wayne?
I've got the Bills to cover.
I meant David. Dang, damn it. I'm screwed up here. It's getting late.
I'd love to take the Jets and the points. Jets have really, really had a really good season compared to what everybody thought they would, but I've got to go Buffalo at home. Yeah.
Now, I've got to go Buffalo to cover too. And sorry, Connie, but I got to go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Yeah, okay. All right, let's go. The Vikings 10-2 at my Detroit Lions 5-7. Detroit favored by 1 point. Ripley's, believe it or not. What do you think, Wayne?
Well, I'm going to have to take the Vikings on this one. They're ready to bounce back. I know they had their little bit of slip up there, but they recovered last week, and I think they're going to continue. And I'm not sure the Lions are ready for them.
What about you, David?
I'm calling trap game, as I did with TCU last week and also USC. I'm saying Detroit.
You're Detroit. You know what? Okay. Detroit football. They got to win. If they win, what a job Dan Campbell has done in Detroit. If they win this week, they'll be a contender for the playoffs. JJ has the Lions to cover too. I mean, I saw 50,000 Yenzers come into Atlanta this weekend, and anything is possible. So I'll take the Lions. JJ has Detroit. Let's go to the Ravens 8-4 at, speaking of Yenzers, the Steelers 5-7, Pittsburgh a 3-point favorite. Wayne, who do you have?
Well, I'm going with the other Harbaugh, and I'm picking the Ravens and the points on this one.
What do you have, David?
Hey, it's a little. I'm a little surprised Pittsburgh is favored in this one.
Me too.
So I'm going to go ahead and give the 3. I'll take Pittsburgh.
Oh, you mean you're giving the points? Pittsburgh is the favorite.
Giving the points, yes, sir.
Cover. See, you have Pittsburgh covering then. You have them. Okay.
Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going with the Yenzers too because my wife's family, they're all Yenzers. and I can't go against them. And they went to Atlanta and won. They've won 2 in a row. They're able to run the football now. I think they clipped the Ravens. JJ took the Ravens, of course. Let's go to Tampa Bay 5-6 at the 49ers 8-4. San Francisco favored by 3.5. Who do you got, Wayne?
I'm taking the Buccaneers on this one, even though I really don't want to. But you know, the 49ers they're down a quarterback, and I don't think they're going to do too well without him.
You're going to be surprised. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of like Purdy. I mean, he stepped in last game and looked almost brilliant. So, but I'm still going Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay in the 3.5. I'll win by a half point.
Well, it's a 3. You know what? That half is killing me. But that's what Vegas does to all of us. But I'm behind Wayne and JJ on the year. We'll get to that at the end. I'm going with the 49ers and David Purdy, the kid from Iowa State who looked really good. I think San Francisco is going to get after Tom Brady and get him out of his spot. I like San Francisco to win by 4. Okay, our final game, the Dolphins 8-4 at the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego. 6-6, Miami a 3-point favorite. Wayne, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers in this one because I saw what they did to Atlanta there a few weeks, about a month or so ago, and I don't know, that surfer-looking quarterback they got my attention.
JJ chose the Bucs. I don't know if I said it. Go ahead, David. The surfer.
You know, I was reading today. I mean, Herbert is a outstanding quarterback out of Oregon. I really liked him when he was a senior at Oregon, and it's just been really good. But you know, the people around him aren't that good, and he's got a lot of people hurt around that team. So can't go the Chargers on this one. I'm going to take the visitors.
Me too. I'm thinking great minds think alike, David. I've got the Fish as older guys here. I'll take the Fish, and I think they win by 4. I said David, JJ had the Chargers. He took the points. Coming into today, believe it or not, the smartest one was losing this contest. I'm in dead last. I went 3-3 last week, went 30, 37, and 5 on the year. Wayne went 1-5, but he's in first place, tied with JJ at 32, 35, and 5. JJ went 3-3. He's at 32, 5, and 5. I'm going to catch these guys and pass them this week. Thank you very much for the layup. I really appreciate it, and David supports me, so I have a good support system. Guys, it's been a great show. We got to get off here. We're a little bit past time, so sorry. David, thanks for coming on. You can get a hold of him at David Walker QB, also at the Rebel Walk. You can get a hold of us all at ATL Prime Sports. For David, thanks for coming on, filling in for JJ, for Wayne in Memphis, for me in ATL, and David somewhere in the Texas A&M, Texas area. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey,
enjoy
you as well. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.